Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show with live peoples all having a nattering chat. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm playing with my #1 Derwent water brush because I find this to be the driest, if that's the better word. I'm playing also in my Mythomorphia. I seem to be doing quite well in the Mythomorphia. And I'm also playing with the Peerless watercolors. And we have a new, oh, come here, we have a new disabled friend that we've rescued. And he wants to sit and bask in the warm daylight lamps that I've got near. Oh, hi, Veronica. So our butterfly is flying around. So I thought I'd do the back dragon. So the middle dragon that's actually on the paper, if I don't flutter my butterfly away, I was working with gouache. I'm going to do the back copy at the front page, which is the same dragon in, I think I was going to do that in the Hydrus. And this one I thought I'd do with my Peerless watercolors. And I'm really enjoying these gorgeous oranges and reds. And my daughter turned up 2 days ago with a butterfly, and his wings are folded, and it doesn't matter what we've done, we can't get them. He's obviously hit something. So he's a disabled butterfly, and he's been rescued, and he's living in a little terrarium. But he went outside yesterday to sit in the sun on the buddleia bush that I have growing, and he seems to be a happy boy. And he drinks orange juice, and he also drinks from the little orange segments that I've got in there. So I feel it's a little bit cruel, but it's better than being eaten by the cat. And he loves sitting on the, well, he didn't tell me, but I'll just zoom him in a bit. I call him a he, sat on the buddleia bushes with all the other butterflies as they were collecting their pollen. And he just opened his wings and, well, as best he could. You can see them folded. They're completely folded, look. And I've had a very carefully tried to prise them apart, and I just cannot get those open. So he seems to be a happy baby, so we'll just leave him where he is. He's got 2 daylight lamps, which he kind of likes. I think they only live for a couple of weeks anyway, I think. Oops. So I'll just see if I'm zoomed in correctly. Oopsie, that's probably better. So you'll have to forgive me, I'm terrible with names. So I seem to probably have a bit more. Whoopsie, he wants to colour. Where are you going? Where are you going? You're gonna colour. Come on. You want to go back to your daylight lamp? It's there, look. Oh, you like that? I'm not going to stand there with my finger in the daylight lamp. If I put that down there, you can go sit on your terrarium. There you go. Go sit on there then. Go on. You sit there. Yeah. He's just under the lamp. He's just sitting there right under the lamp. So hopefully, yes, I seem to be disabled rabbits and disabled rabbits. Sit down, you're not barking, mister. So definite. Oopsie, where are you going? There's something about this colour book. When I was colouring outside last week, all the butterflies were jumping on this colour book. Maybe it's the colours. Are you thirsty? It's difficult to know what insects like, isn't it? Most of the time, he just wants to sit on my knee. Sorry, sit on my finger. Um, it's Alfie that wants, but Alfie will eat him, you see. And the cat will definitely play, so I thought I'd keep him out of the way. And he, as I say, he did settle for. I left him outside for a good hour on the buddleia bush, and he just sat and basked in a bit of sunshine. We had a little bit of sunshine yesterday. So I want to turn this deep red. Oh, I might turn into a deep purple dragon. I might do a different colour. Sometimes it's quite nice to play with colour. You get a little bit. I've missed a bit there because I want that to be bright yellow. So basically the highlight is the yellow. And that's what I use the colour of three. Is the rule of three is using three colours that are next to each other. So we've got a red, we've got an orange, and we've got a yellow. Are you just going to sit there and watch me colour? It's very strange having a butterfly colouring with you, but hey ho, here we go. He's not the first, and I'm probably not going to be the last. I do have hundreds of buddleia bushes in my house, and I've left them to grow, and they're trees. You know, some are 20, 30 foot high. They're like trees, so in certain parts of the garden, I can let them go wild, so they are huge. And there must be now, they used to be about a foot long. I bet then they're sometimes 2 foot long, the fronds. So of course you can get, I've got one with about 6 butterflies on all at the same time. But these were from the railway when I worked as a conductor. I got the, if we saw them, where are you going? You want a drink? He wants to be near his lamp, don't you? Do you want to be near your lamp? Is that is that what you want now off my kitchen roll now? But it was quite fascinating to watch these butterflies. The advantages of being disabled is you get in a position you can't move, but you can watch. And I found things that I would miss. And butterflies rest on concrete or on something else, even on me. They feed and like a frenzy, and then they have to go somewhere and clean all their feet and their proboscis, so and they have to clean everything, and it's really fascinating to watch them. So I got some fantastic photographs. So I thought I might do a colour book with some drawings of butterflies. So I'm quite pleased that, and of course, butterflies are colourful as well. So although I do have my butterfly book, it's timed quite nicely to use real butterflies. And things happen like that, you know, it's quite nice that, and things come from inspiration that you wouldn't normally expect. And that's what I was doing that colour series about. You know, you really would not expect certain things. I think I wanted that to be more of a horn. So I suppose I could do that bright yellow. But I do like this gorgeous colour, this red. So he's going to be probably a bit more ready than others. And there's still tons of colour on this, even though it's used quite a lot. I'm going around the edges and it's very vibrant around the edges, so there's still quite a lot of colour to be had on this page. Definitely do not throw them away when they go pale. I think I can maybe have some purples in there. I'm not quite sure. And that might have to be red, I think. That's definitely a flame there, so I've missed that one. So sometimes you've got to kind of fill things in before you realise what's what. And I've learnt that a lot. And that butterfly must be contented because he's just sitting there. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. He doesn't look miserable. He looks like the in the wild. He's just, oops, the handle's fallen down. He's just exactly where I put him. Oh, you see, he wants the light. He wants the daylight light. It's very warm there. And he wants to go back on there. Go back on there then. Yeah, but you can't sit on my finger because I'll squash you. Go back on there. That's it. You're there now. Get comfortable. If it wasn't so windy, I'd pop him outside. But when he flies, he just flutters down. So, as I said, the cat would get him. So, and it's not particularly sunny out there. But of course, he thinks it's sun because it's a daylight lamp. Right. So I've got to think of a body. I think I can see him with deep green and deep purple. So if I do deep green, purple head there, and then his green belly, I think we're going to have a deep purple. But I'm sticking with the Peerless because I like the Peerless. Oh no, the Hydrus aren't concentrated inks. They are pure watercolor. And so a little bottle goes a long way. They are pure watercolor. But I would only buy 6 colors. Just bear with me 2 seconds. It's one of these, and I think it's this one. Yeah. Now I bought a set. Oops, I put it down there. But I didn't have the right yellow, so I made the yellow. But I would buy, if you were going to buy them individually, I would buy that one's the Hansa. That's a bit like a gamboge. I would buy one in between that colour, a very, very bright yellow. Then I'd buy like a cadmium yellow, a bit warmer. I do like yellow ochre. And then I'd have like a cadmium red and a pinky red, like a magenta. And I would have a purple's quite good. I would buy the, I think this is set 1, but set 1 had 3 missing that I like. Having said that, I've quite got into the phthalo green and phthalo blue. But the set 1, and then I'd add 1 or 2 to it. But I made the oranges. I'd make most of the colours myself because they are so concentrated. 2 drops of yellow and 1 drop of red gives you a beautiful orange. 1 drop of yellow into 1 drop of red gives you a cad red, because I didn't have a cad red. So you could get away with three colours, but the purple's quite nice, the phthalo blue and the phthalo green's quite nice. And that's what I did what did I do with those? But I will do a bit of colour mixing when I do the other dragon. But I need to feel a little bit better. Unfortunately, colour mixing isn't part of the brain. This is about as much as I can do today, is just flick and use the water brush. But sometimes that's quite nice. Oh, he's pinched my paper now. To have another one. He's very feisty for a disabled butterfly. No, you're not flying around because you'll get squashed. You want to be on there, don't you? I know where you want to be. That's not helpful. Look at his wings, bless him. They're completely folded. And I've tried all sorts to gently prise them apart, but they just won't go. Apart from that, bless him, he's as happy as Larry, but where are you going now? You can't sit on there because I need to be there. Oops, come on. Go back up there where it's warm. Well, you can go in there then. If you're too warm, he won't go in there. Come on, stop being a pest now. There we go. I've got some orange juice on there. Come on. He wants to sit on my hand. There you go. I'll put that in there as well. So he's in a little terrarium, but he's quite warm. So back to the hydra. Sorry, Melody. So yes, but they're not inks. They are pure watercolors. And there's if you watch YouTube and type in Dr. Martin's PH Hydrus, but you want the Hydrus. The other ones I think are an ink and they're not light fast, but the Hydrus are light fast and they are professional watercolors. And if you watch the ladies when they're using them on wet watercolor paper, they do some amazing things. And of course, half a dozen bottles of those will last you quite a long time. I mean, I've done quite a few pages with just a few drops. But if you can get them separate, I'd probably buy the purple, and the 2 reds, 2 yellows, and 2 reds, 2 yellows, and 2 blues. The purple, and if you really like the phthalo blue and the phthalo green, because sometimes they're a bit of a pest. If you're doing professional things, yellow ochre, and there's gamboge in there, which is always a bit of a thing. But apart from that, any greens, mix your own greens, and browns and beiges and all the others. There is a white in the first set. I think I've got set 1. I think there's 3 sets, but they're about £60, I think. They're about £5 or £6 individually. And if I'd have been able to buy them that way, I would have done, because I like my own colours. There isn't a cyan, there isn't a very cold blue, a cerulean blue. Talking of which, wow, look at that one. So I love the hydrus. But I was thinking of a deep purple, but I've actually seen that now. But I'm not sure what that's going to do next to there. That could be his belly though. But there's a forget-me-not blue, but I think there's a nice turquoise in this set. Now they have brought some more out since I bought these. I bought these about 3 years ago, maybe 4. So I do think there are some more colours. There's a peacock blue, which I think is quite nice. I think I might like his belly doing there. And then I want a purpley colour for his back. Yeah, when it gets too hot, it goes underneath where the shade is. There's a red there's a red rose which looks quite purpley to me. Um, but I think I want my like an amethyst or a deep purpley blue. I think I like a deep blue. Looks very like I mean, I haven't tried to mix these colours at all. Let's see what the deep blue does. Oh, I had a bit of another colour on there actually, but it should be fine. So I'm going to go in here, and then if I make a real, oops, it's, see, I want, it's, you've got to keep kitchen roll because you really need to keep this as light as possible, and it really wants to be dark, and I don't want it to be dark. I thought that would look quite nice, but still a bit too wet for me, is that? So really, but I don't like wasting, there's a lot of paint there that I've wasted, so be a bit careful. And the more you bend the brush, the more the more water you get out. So you need to just stroke the tip of the brush really, because the more you bend the top bit, the more water wants to gush out. That's how I found. Let me have a look. Well, these are these have gone a bit bitty. They dry, but you just use a brush and they come back. It takes very little to get them back. I don't want to use a nice one. You see, they look very grainy. So you can do two things. I normally, so that one looks really grainy. That one looks very grainy. Sorry, I keep thinking the light is the camera. That looks quite grainy. So when you first go in there, but I don't use them like that, you see. So I use them just a tiny amount because I don't use them full strength. I use them as a watercolor, in my watercolor way. Um, so you see, I probably wouldn't reactivate all that. I would just play with there. But when they've gone green, again, I just use a little. That's my tiny brush, my little riggers, and you just touch a damp brush, and you've got tons of color on there. But I have a look at the other YouTubers that are actually professional artists that use them in the proper. They're designed to use in a watercolor way, but there's tons of color, and I barely touched that. So I use them like that. But I have. There's a video of mine, and they go grainy, and you just get a damp brush and swizzle it in. And then when they've dried again, now mine have been wet about 4 times, so maybe after a certain amount of time they don't crack again. But mine are in here. My hydras are in here and they haven't cracked. But they're the only ones that are on pure plastic. They should be at the back here. They're not grainy at all on there. They've just kind of sat pure colour. But the best thing to do is just buy one. Buy one. I don't know why I've put that away. Sorry. It's like asleep. I've forgotten which purple it was now. I think it was the purple blue, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a deep blue. And that's why I don't buy the full set. Just buy your favourite colour. If your favourite colour is pink or purple, buy a pink or a purple. And then you can always, it's your favourite colour, just play with that. But I must admit, I do quite like them. And of course, value for money, because they're going to last you a long time. I did the bunny one as well, didn't I? What else did I do? I did the dragon in Dee Dee's, not dragon, what do you call it? Oh, not dragon. Tiger. But I used the tiniest amount. I don't think I've done one in here, have I? Oh, that's the Hydrus. That's one of the first things I did. And that's from that palette, just touching the tiniest bit. But it depends on how you want to use them. But money for value for money, absolutely fantastic. Because the one drop, I mean, I've only put 2 drops in those. I think I did something else in Mythomorphia. But I use them completely different. I use lots of things completely different. There's a dragon somewhere, isn't there? But it definitely got me out of my bright colour, pale colour mode. Sure I did one in here. Oh, that's what I started. Oops. In the bright colours. That's the same palette. All these were done with that palette, and the palette looks like I've hardly touched it. And then I think this one's Hydrus as well. Maybe I haven't. I think I started one of these in Hydrus. I think this one's Hydrus as well. This is why I need my little book to tell me. Just try when you spray them with water and mix, just not much effort. You can mix them back. They go grainy and then they instantly transfer back. But if you use them as a drop, they're very vibrant. I tend to use them dried. I don't know why, because I think I did a video and then I couldn't finish it because it was wet and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get that lovely colour. Because you can't get the watercolour effect if you use them from wet because there's too much colour. It needs a dry colour with a tiny, very similar to these. You know, you get the watercolour effect because you're not using too much colour, just the tiniest little bit. But there are a lot of videos out there because I always watch lots and lots of videos before I buy because you get the pros and the cons. And everything I've got at the moment is being a bit neglected, which is why I thought I would do that series where I have to use something every week and then I can use them. But I'll use them from here. I want that bit darker there. But again, this brush has gone a little bit too wet for me. But it's very easy, so I'm persevering with it because it's easier than dipping in every time. So I thought it'd be quite nice to have a kind of vivid colour. Now it might look a bit too gaudy, I don't know, we'll have to see. And I had intended, which I've just ruined, I had intended on kind of having darker to lighter, but sometimes you just don't want to be messing about with all this kind of colour. As I say, that sometimes I like, if I'm not well, I want to colour just because it makes me feel better. And I normally do that anyway, but when you're being creative, sometimes you do need some energy. You do need energy to be creative. Sometimes if you haven't got energy, um, but always the best thing to do is, if they don't do little sample bottles, is to just buy one or two. I mean, if you bought a purple and a pink, and purple pinks are your colour, then you know you're going to use those. Um, Not sure about this colour, but we'll see. We'll think about it. And the other green I was thinking was peacock green. So again, you've got to make sure, and I hate wasting colour, but you need your brush clean again. And then just the tiniest, oopsie, the tiniest little bit. So I'm going to work down here because I've used that space because I did, I've forgotten what I did the other day, but I use a lot. So I've got the tiniest bit on there. And I'm just going to go under here. I'm not sure if I like that green or not. I think and I'll stick with it. This is peacock green. It'll change slightly. So what I'm trying to do is to start dark, and then where the light would be, kind of get lighter. So some quite bright, vivid colours going on. So in fact, what I can do is the next video after this, I'll play with the hydrus, because I'm going to do that in the front. And again, I don't have to colour mix. So I was going to try and get a bit of a highlight going on his tummy. So I think those colours will be okay. Just see how long I've been going, because it's quite time consuming. So I think we'll have I think the purple can go over there, or deep blue. So I think it can come out from here, and then we can get that highlight going on there. Now you can go back in here with something else if you wanted, but I actually quite like to have a watercolor effect. Oh, thank you, Kenny. I wasn't sure at first, but sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and go for it. And again, that's another thing. When you're not well, sometimes you take more risks than you would if you and ah and think about it. Sometimes I spend hours thinking about colour. So I've just put the tiniest amount of that blue went over that yellow, and I have a beautiful green. Didn't particularly want it, but so you can colour mix with these as well if you wanted. So although there's only 45 in a set, you can have more than that. I like this blue. I think it's quite striking because but I wanted a purpley dragon, so oops. Sorry, I don't know who that is. I think that's my daughter home, so again, just a tiny bit in there deep and then manipulate it round and you can get quite a nice effect. If you wanted that, you can do it just flat colour if you wanted as well. That's the beauty of colour books. They're all individual and everybody's book will be different. Even if you use the same products, copy the same colours, it will still be different with the same brush. It'll come out different. So if I do that backwards, you see now, I'm going to have such a pale highlight. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but it's definitely going to be a bright one. It might not work. It's again, it's something that, and it's very difficult to see that deep purple blue to come to be that very pale, soft blue. So again, even though there are only 45 colours, each one's got at least 10 shades. So it's a lot of colours only by using water. That's not mixing others together. So the series I was going to do is about how I use my water-based mediums like gouache, like hydrous, like Peerless, and then how traditionally it's supposed to be used. So watercolors would be used on watercolor paper with wet on wet as they are supposed to be used, not in a color book. The gouache should be made as a thick gloopy paint, used fairly thick to be completely opaque. Well, I don't use it like that. I use it to be thin. So you can see through mine. Mine's not opaque. So I want to use it how these colors are so vibrant. So I want to get so people can see how I use them, but how traditionally you are supposed to use them. Because I kind of move things about quite a lot and I use things as they are not really supposed to be used, if that makes sense. So that was part of one of the series that I was doing is, this is gouache. This is how I use it in a color book. But I was also going to show how traditionally it's supposed to be used. And then you can have a look and decide, if it's an easy way to work. So you've got to be careful touching these because they are very, very vibrant. And there's no reason why I can't go back round if I wanted to. But I didn't know I could do that with the green, so I've just learnt something by going over there. But I don't really want to do it again because I don't want those to be green. I do want them to be yellow. So perhaps I should have done the blue first. And as you can see, this is far too wet for me. I'm really not happy being this wet. But this is the back cover. so it will stand this. But I like to have more control. When it's a colour book, you know, if it's a watercolour, that's different, but I do like that little bit more control over it because I want to be able to manipulate darks and lights. And if you've got a wishy-washy brush, you can't really do that. Oh, is that better? Sorry about that. The camera's, I've moved the camera a bit today. But it's very quick, this. And sometimes your colour books are different. It's like if you work kind of quite tight and you free yourself. It's the same with the colour books. So your colour books will be different. You know, the little one I showed earlier that I found is really tiny details. You know, you're not going to be able to do that with this kind of a brush because you will just lose all that lovely detail. I'm trying to go where it's not too strong, but it's not going to work. And I'm going to struggle now because I've got to get around all these little flowers. So you can't manipulate. I think that's the flame. You can't really manipulate like you can when you have a big space. So it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. Now it might look okay. I'll probably have to go over it, I think, maybe, because it's not kind of highlights in the right place, if that makes any sense. But then it might just work. I won't know till the end. Now, if you were using anything else, watercolor, you could control this, but this brush, you haven't got a lot of control, so you can't manipulate light or dark. You just have to kind of go in for it. So it might look a bit contrived and boring in this middle bit here because it's difficult to manipulate that light and dark. So this can be dark here. And again, it's okay as this brush, but it's the driest one I've got, but it's just a bit too much for if you want a lot of control. But at the end of the day, it's a colour book. It's not a work of art. It's just a colour book. I'm colouring because I enjoy the process. And I like playing with colour, which is unusual for me because I'm normally a black and white girl. I just draw line drawings and I don't do either shading, so it's completely out of my comfort zone is colour. So I think that's a flame, and I think that's a flame. And we might darken his tummy up in the middle because we know that's going to be darker. See, I'd like a lot of dark up there because he's obviously in shadow, but it's fine. We'll follow him round. Oh, he's got a purple foot, so you could have a really deep, dark purple foot, couldn't he? So thanks for stopping by. I'm going to continue with this one for a little while, and then I'm going to do part 2. I shall, if I'm very clever and lucky, I can get that. Oopsie, you see, you mustn't touch anything else. If you touch that yellow, you get green. I do want that to be quite dark. But if I can't do anything there, I go away and I go touch somewhere else. And then I go away and touch somewhere else. And then when I come back, I've got a highlight. And that's something else you can do to stop that flow of madness that is kind of in your face when you don't want it. And then you can always manipulate that round. Oh, thank you, Kenny. Thank you. As I said,